Okay, so let's start. First of all, let me introduce myself. This is Anwaar Khalid. I'm data scientist at Machine Vision and Intelligence Systems Lab here in SEECS, NUST, Islamabad, Pakistan. And today, the talk is actually centered around multi-spectral drone imagery, the applications, of course, the challenges, the applications of multi-spectral drone imagery in crop health monitoring and phenological stage mapping of a crop at any instance, any particular timestamp. Mostly the outline will be, first of all, we will establish some of the nomenclature, some of the terms. We first differentiate between some confusing terminologies that are often used in multispectral remote sensing. And after establishing the sound grounds of the terms, norms, we will move towards the electromagnetic spectrum and visible spectrum, where bands lie on the electromagnetic spectrum. And when we talk about multispectral images, multispectral bands, hyperspectral bands, actually, which part of the spectrum we are talking about. Then we also discuss some of the multispectral bands that are available with when you extract data from the Landsat 8, the satellite, European satellite. And after that, we also discuss some of the indices, vegetation indices, which are very helpful in analyzing the status of a particular crop region when we take hyperspectral data of the region or the drawn images of that particular crop. Then also we discuss about thermal sensors. When we applied thermal sensors over the same crop region, what are the effects and what are the results that we got when we applied the thermal sensor instead of multispectral sensors. So the first thing is we have to establish the difference between multispectral and hyperspectral imagery. We usually talk about multispectral bands and hyperspectral bands, but what's the key difference we have to establish first before going towards the advanced discussions. The main difference is actually in multispectral imagery, the spectral band is divided into several bands. Let's suppose if we are talking about the visible band, in multispectral imagery, the visible band is only divided into three regions, three parts, three bands, red, green, and blue. That's it. But if we talk about hyperspectral imagery, the same visible band is now no longer divided into three bands. It's a continuous band. There could be, like, based on the wavelength in the spectrum, you have a band. That's a continuous band. That's the main and key difference between multispectral and hyperspectral imagery. Most of the satellites data is actually hyperspectral. We have a lot of bands, various bands from various regions of the electromagnetic spectrum. But when we talk about drawn imagery, when we talk about sensors, Sentira's sensors, SEECS, we have only 5 bands, like NIR, red, green edge, red edge, and I. So that are multispectral images. Mostly drawn images, drones capture multispectral data, whereas the satellites are capturing hyperspectral data, continuous bands. It is also illustrated with a figure as well. If you see here, this is the electromagnetic spectrum. And if you see the visible band, the complete band is divided into three bands: red, green, and blue. Then we have infrared region of the electromagnetic spectrum, and infrared, the closest region of the infrared with the visible band is called near infrared. That's why it's called NIR, near infrared. From this part, this particular region, the band that the portion of the electromagnetic spectrum is no longer visible. That's why it's not called visible. That's why it's not in the visible band. It's no longer visible. And the closest region of the electromagnetic spectrum with the visible band is the infrared band, infrared region. And the sorry. So we are talking about the closest region to the visible band is infrared band, and the first band, when you just entered from the visible band to the infrared band, is called near infrared region, near infrared. NIR lies here at this part. Some other NIR bands are again. So look at the same, but this time hyperspectral. Now the visible band is no longer divided into some specific constant number of bands. It's continuous. You can divide it on the wavelength. If you want, each wavelength would be a band. One single wavelength would be a band. Same goes for infrared and other regions of electromagnetic spectrum. Okay, here is another visualization of the same concept. Now look at this. This is multispectral. Red, some other portion of the visible band, some other portion, and some other portion. You can see the spectrum, but divided into concrete number of bands. But when you just look at the hyperspectral imagery, there is no particular distinction. It's a continuous region of changing wavelengths and yes, changing the lights, colors. It's the hyperspectral imagery. I think so. We have some understanding of multispectral and hyperspectral imagery. This image is taken from the European space website, and this is particularly about the bands that Landsat 8 satellite. When you extract the images or the data from Landsat 8, these particular bands are there with the data. Of course, the visible band is divided into several bands. In infrared region, we have NIR1, NIR2, and some other regions from the electromagnetic spectrum. You have a very long range of the wavelengths here. So let's talk about multispectral bands because we are the focus, the topic of discussion is actually the drone images. And the drone images, we are talking about multispectral sensors that we attach to the drone, and then drone take the flight, capture the images of the crop regions of over a certain height or altitude, and then that images are actually multispectral images because of the sensor that is installed over the drone. And the sensor specifically that we discuss in this is the SEECS. This is the sensor. The sensor looks like that. Here there are 5 different cameras installed over this sensor, and four of them are actually the capturing the different bands. For example, red edge, red, green, and NIR. These four different cameras are there to capture four different types of imagery, and the fifth one is for RGB. This one for RGB data. There are the wavelengths of the particular bands. We are talking about green, red, red edge, near infrared, and RGB. So let's talk about the green band. This particular band is actually very important and be oftenly used when you have to perform the analysis of some green region. I would say the regions where the existence of the water is there. If the leaves of the crops are not dried up, there would be water there. You can use this band. Water bodies, where there are waters over the surface of the earth, you can use this band. These are the applications, some of the applications of this band. And if you see this image, it's not only the green band, but since if we just visualize only the green band, that would not be a colored image. It's a single band, single channel. It would be a grayscale image. So what we did is actually we take two more bands, blue band and coastal band, combine them with the green band, and the image looks like that. If you see these regions and these regions, it's actually a water body, the image of a water body, the existence of the water. And the edge, the boundary is more visible here if you just plot it in RGB or any other particular modality. So crop types, seagrass, reefs, bathymetry, in which this is the field in which you research over water bodies, water existence, and some other analysis related to water systems. Another application of the same band, if you see, this is an image, and again this image is actually combined with some other bands to make it colored, and then you see here the reflectance is almost zero, very low reflectance because of the very dark color here in this particular region. And if you see, the reflectance here is very high because of the green crops, because we combined the green channel, green band here in this imagery. Another visualization. You see here, the reflectance is high. The reflectance of the reflectance is high because of the green band. More values, high values there in green band. Yes. What is it? Reflectance means when the color, when the light, sunlight just reflected from any surface. So some of the colors are absorbed and some of the colors are reflected. That reflectance is actually captured by the camera. And that reflectance is used to analyze these particular objects. What type of object there is. Yes. So we have a particular range of the wavelengths of the lights that are reflected when they are reflected from the water surface.
is captured in the form of number. What forms it?
Intensity, light intensity captured by the imaging device. It could be camera, it could be anything. Imaging device, right? And the intensity will decide the values, corresponding values. So water bodies, no reflectance. In green band, no reflectance. In urban regions, you can see some of reflectance. So you can segment out the regions based on this particular information that you are getting out from the green band, using the green band. Okay, now the red band. Here also the red band is one of the channel. We combined it with green and NIR1. If you combine these three bands, the image of a particular region looks like that. Now, if you see, these regions are trees, some black regions, some shady regions. These are the trees. And most of the light, most of the color, most of the values are high where there is just land there. Same thing. There, the original RGB image would look like some brown colors and some green colors. But when we combine these three bands, make a colored image, it is a totally different visualization, totally different way to visualize the same situation, same scenario, same region in a different view. Shady regions are the trees. Red band, the values reflected, the intensity of the values in the red band is very low here in these shady regions. It's very high where there is land, just simple land. And we use it for absorption, chlorophyll absorption. If most of the color, most of the light is absorbed, it means there is chlorophyll exist there, chlorophyll there. Chlorophyll means crops, healthy crops. Vegetation analysis. Vegetation analysis means if the crop is healthy, there would be more chlorophyll index there in the crops, in the leaves, in the plants. Very low values will be reflected from the region. In this particular area, where the values of the red band is very high, no chlorophyll is there. Most of the values are reflected. Means there is no vegetation. And some other applications of the same band. This band is also used in plant stress mapping. Stress means there is a crop there and that crop is not healthy. It looks green, but it's not healthy. It looks green, but it's not healthy because the chlorophyll pigments available with the leaves are very low. The crop is drying up. That could not be analyzed with the visible band because it shows green everywhere. But when you capture this particular band, you can easily visualize the difference or the stress over the plant. The stress could be because of the pesticides attack, pest attack over the plant, or some viruses. So this is a visualization. We have the red band. You can easily see the regions where there is no crop, where there is no vegetation are red, mostly red. Now look the reflectance pattern of the water with this band as compared to the green band. In green band, most of the water region is very dark. But the reflectance pattern with this band of the water bodies is totally different. It's now no longer very dark, it's somehow very light. You can easily map the water bodies. This can be used to track the rivers, trace the rivers, the pathways of the rivers, and also the analysis of the patterns, behaviors of flowing rivers. Red edge, again NIR1, red band and the red edge. You can see the green regions now. Now red edge is actually not in the visible band. So that's why the visualization is totally different now. Now red edge, you can see the green regions, highly green regions, highly vegetative regions of the particular area that you have captured, red edge. It is also used in health or stress monitoring of the crop. This particular band is also very important in crop type mapping as well. What type of crop is actually there in the region that you are considering. Another visualization. This is the RGB image. And this is the image in which one of the band is red edge. Look the difference. The point that I just raised, it looks green, but that's not the case. It looks the crop is healthy. There is grass. There is some vegetations or grass or some crop. It could be a crop, but it looks green. But this particular band, when combined with some other bands and visualized, says the original real story. It's not green. It's drying out. And you can easily estimate the stress. And when you estimate the stress, you can have precautionary measures. Okay. The last one is near infrared NIR. It's very important. This band is very important, particularly because most of the vegetation indices use this band. Red band and NIR. Most of the vegetation indices, for example, the most prominent and most widely used vegetative index, NDVI, normalized vegetative difference index, that NDVI is used this particular band, NIR and red band, NIR and red band. I also show you the formula to calculate the NDVI, how NDVI is calculated, and what NDVI tells us about the crop region. When there is the range of the NDVI values is actually between -1 to 1. So what does it mean when the value is -1? What does it mean when the value is 1? What does it mean when the value is close to 0? So we will discuss this. But this is the band that is most widely used in most of the vegetation indices, NDVI. Okay. Now you can see this is the pattern, reflectance pattern of several bands and the NIR band. So red, when just reflected from the surface of the plant, of the leaf, it's mostly absorbed. No reflectance of the red light, red band actually. Same goes for blue. But green light is reflected. Most of the green light, green the wavelengths that belongs to green region of the visible spectrum are reflected. That's why leaves look like green, because most of the green light is reflected. Most of the green, all the other light is absorbed, colors are absorbed, only green light is reflected. But the reflectance pattern of green is way different than the NIR. Some of the green wavelength, some of the wavelengths that belongs to green band is not reflected, properly reflected. Some of them are absorbed by the leaf. But if you see the NIR band, the reflectance of the NIR band as compared to green is way high. This particular band will tell the exact story about the inside system of the leaf. That is photosynthesis, chlorophyll pigmentation, and chlorophyll cells, which is actually responsible for the photosynthesis process and the reflectance of the green light. Most of the NIR band, NIR wavelengths are mostly reflected, highly reflected. So let's see, this is the visualization in which we have incorporated the NIR band, and you can see we can easily segment out the region where there is no reflectance and which highly represents that there is water. In NIR, when NIR is when you have a region and the NIR band of that region, if there is a water body exists in the region, no NIR is reflected. No NIR reflected means no values. It's the pattern of a NIR band with the water body. No reflection. Most of the NIR band is most of the NIR light is absorbed by the water body. So you can trace the rivers, the flowing patterns of the rivers. And in the next few slides, we also see the applications of the NIR band. I will get back to this particular band, but first let's close the bands. We discussed the multi-spectral bands captured by SEECS, that is red, green, red edge, and NIR, and lastly RGB, that is actually the visible band. In this particular region is the electromagnetic spectrum, and only this small region is actually over the electromagnetic spectrum. This small region is actually the region which can be visualized. Starting from 380 nanometers, going all the way through 740 nanometers. This is the visible band. Okay. So there is a visualization which shows the reflectance pattern if there are several, like water, vegetation, and soil. So if you see in water, the reflectance of blue, green, and red is like blue and green are, there is reflectance when there is water, no reflectance if there is water body with a red band. If there is vegetation, you can see the reflectance pattern. Blue, this particular amount of blue band is reflected, highly reflected. Green band is highly reflected because of the vegetation, and red is mostly absorbed by the vegetative bodies, vegetation. I'm just considering the red, green, and blue right now, not talking about red edge and NIR. And if you see the soil, most of the reflectance is there with the three bands, blue, green, and red. But when it comes to red edge and infrared, you can see the reflectance pattern of the vegetation. Red edge and NIR, you can see the reflectance pattern exponentially grows in red edge and NIR. That's why they are very, very oftenly used in analysis of crop health monitoring. The same visualization here. This is now not NIR1, NIR2. It's the region in near infrared region, and you can see the reflectance pattern. Green shows the healthy. If the crop is healthy, the reflectance pattern is somewhat like that. The values should be that much high. If the crop is stressed, it looks green, but it's stressed. The values of the NIR just decreased. And if the nitrogen content is not available, the reflectance pattern is somewhat like that. And this is the soil reflectance pattern of the soil if there is no crop there. So this visualization shows that these the region, infrared region, can be used to monitor the stress of the crop, to monitor the regions of the crop where the crop looks green, but it's not green. It's under stress, and it could be because of a pest attack, or it could be because of the nitrogenous species in the soil is not available. It could be any reason, but you can detect the reason of the stress as well with the infrared bands. Okay, so look at this visualization. This is the leaf. See the NIR, the reflectance. Healthy leaf. Most of the NIR band is reflected. NIR band is reflected. High intensity values are there in the band with NIR. High intensity values means most of the NIR is reflected, means the crop is healthy. If the leaf is under stress, you can see the reflectance pattern of the NIR. Under stress leaf, the reflectance pattern of the NIR. Low reflectance, low intensity values, the crop is under stress. And if the leaf is dead, look at the NIR reflectance. No reflectance, very low, very low. No reflectance, low intensity values, the crop is dead. And you can see the picture of the leaf that looks like when the leaf is dead. Most important thing to note here is you can see the green reflectance is more or less same with the healthy leaf, with the stressed leaf, and with the dead leaf. The reflectance pattern of the green is more or less same. So that's why RGB imagery is not sufficient to monitor the stress, the crop health, and the regions, to analyze the regions where we need some components to be established, some components to be put there, some sprays to increase the nitrogen content of the soil, or to deal with the pests if the pest attack is the reason for the stress of the crop. Okay, so we were in Germany for a research project. And this is the five textures of the sequa. The drone is, we flew the drone over a corn crop. This is a corn crop at 30 meters altitude, 30 meters. Sequa in multispectral sensor, sequa is installed over the drone. We took the images. There is this particular images are the images of a very small chunk of the crop. It's almost 8 to 9 acres region where we flew the drone, take the images, and then make the mosaics, orthomosaics of the images captured by the drone, and then we made the NDVI indices, some other indices, SAVI, NDVI, and then analyze the regions where the NDVI shows that the crop is under stress. Then we personally visit that regions, having the coordinates, geo coordinates, and when we personally analyzed and visualized the region where the NDVI says that the crop is under stress, the crop is under stress. It looks green, but when we specifically saw the leaves, the regions of the stressed regions, leaves that was dried up. So this is the RGB image. This is the red edge image. It's single channel. That's why it looks. It's a grayscale image. Then the red, NIR, and green. So let's talk about some of the vegetation indices. We talked about the bands, and now we will use these bands in a particular formula, in a particular equation. Two bands applied a particular equation over that two bands, and what results come out, let's see. First of all, the most widely used index is normalized difference vegetation index, NDVI. The values are from -1 to 1. -1 means the crop is dead. 1 means the crop is healthy. Near to 1, values near to 1 means the crop is healthy. And values near to 0, either positive or negative, near to 0 shows that the crop is under stress. Look at this picture. The value of NDVI is 0.72. The crop is healthy. Look at this picture. The value of NDVI is 0.14, very close to 0. The crop is under stress. This is the formula. NIR minus red over NIR plus red. So you have two bands, NIR band and red band. Just apply this equation and you will have the values of the NDVI. Since you have the geolocations of the images, you can easily detect the regions where you have to apply the pesticides, sprays. So rather to spray the complete region of the crop just to see that there is a pest attack, what about if we just fly a drone with a multispectral sensor, take the images, make a pipeline, put all the images over that particular algorithm that make our orthomosaic, take the NDVI index, and just show you the regions where you have to apply the pest or the sprays. The cost will be reduced. Okay, so this is another index, SAVI, soil adjusted vegetation index. It's mostly used to analyze the regions where there is soil and yes, the water bodies. So you can see here, most of the light is reflected this region because of the soil. Green regions, water bodies. So this is the range, the scale of the Savi over which this particular image is actually colored. If the value goes from this range to this range, just give it a blue color. If the values are from this range, it's a green region. If the values are there in this particular region, in this particular scale, there is a soil. Again, the values are in between -1 to 1. So this is a particular region where there is crop. A drone is flew over this region, take the multispectral images and compute the orthomosaic, combined all the images using the geolocations that are coming from the images as well. Make the orthomosaic, overlay the orthomosaic over the Google Earth to show where the region that you have captured is over the Earth, Google Earth, and the index that we overlaid is actually NDVI. So you can see NDVI computed with the images captured from this region and overlaid over the Google Earth shows you the real story of the region where there is a crop, where there are crops. So these are under stress, these are dried up, might be they are cultivated. These are the healthy regions, healthy crops. NDVI. Some other indices. Leaf area index. If you see this particular region and this particular region, in previous visualization of the same region, these areas, we have very low NDVI values of these regions. Now we plot the leaf area index, LAI, of the same region in order to investigate why the NDVI values are low in this region and leaf area index shows that these particular regions have no leaves. The crop might be cultivated. No leaf area index means how much there is leaf area there in particular region. Reflectance of green band and some other bands. So leaf area index, no leaf area, very low leaf area, cultivated land as compared to these regions, the other regions. Stressed region, this was the stressed region in the previous visualization. You can see the yellowish region shows the values down, low values of the leaf area index. And this particular region was very healthy in the previous visualization. So you can see more leaf area index, more values, high values of leaf area index. So vegetation chlorophyll map. You can see most of the regions, even with the stressed area, has the chlorophyll vegetation. But in this region, no chlorophyll. Same region, different story. Different index, different story. So vegetation, nitrogen content. Using this particular map, you can inspect the region, the reason whether the stress is because of the pest attack or because of the soil contents. With this particular an index, vegetation nitrogen content. Here the values are low. medium values, high values. Some other indices, vegetation indices, and DVI, RVI, MSR. Water body, for water bodies, we have some different indices, NDWI and soil indices, in which the most most often used is SAMI. So different fields of studies, different indices, vegetation indices. I would not say vegetation indices, I would say indices. So for vegetation indices, we have discussed and DVI. DVI, for water bodies, we have NDWI water index, normalized difference water index. And for soil, we have soil adjusted vegetation index, normalized soil adjusted vegetation index. So this is this is a video. This is a video, but I don't know why it's just a picture here right now. But let's go on. It's a very good video to just summarize everything that we have discussed. Let's go to thermal imaging sensors. In Germany, we also placed a thermal sensor with the same over the same region with the drone, and these are some visualizations with the thermal sensors. It's a very new area, very new field of study, research study, or a research topic in remote sensing, using or incorporating thermal sensors in order to see what is actually there. If you have a thermal sensor, irrespective of a multispectral sensor, and what you can actually detect, the craters, the cavities you can detect because of the reflectance pattern. You can see the crop region here. This is the road. This is the road. It's the same region over which we fly the drone. And this region is actually have some corn crops. This is the area where there is the land that the wheat is cultivated. You can see some of the reflectance because of after cultivation, you have some seed there, and that's again start the growth. So this is the region where the crop is there, and you can see the patterns because of the plantation of the corn crop. You can see the lines, horizontal lines. So this is the reflectance pattern, and you can, with this, it's clear that thermal sensors can also be incorporated in crop health monitoring and some other applications as well, that is cavity detection. This is the sensor or the camera that we used for the thermal imaging. And that's it. If you have any question, the floor is open to you. No questions? Yes.
Okay, so you were sharing your experience in Germany, and you said that you map a 9-acre piece of land with a drone, and then you identify those pockets where which were like stressed due to water shortage or heat maybe. So is this so much accurate, like within this 9-acre piece of land you can identify those pockets, or you need some support from like maybe radar which can like pinpoint the effective position?
Actually, when the drone or the spectral multispectral sensor, when captured the data, it also saves the geolocation, longitudes and latitudes of the region over which that sensor captured the data. Using that geolocations, you can pinpoint the region.
That what you call, was it so much accurate, this GPS detection? Very much accurate that the region didn't.
My comment is over this particular question is, it's not that much accurate, but the topic or the interest, the research interest of our research interest doing this is rather to just spray the complete crop if you just identify the regions, not accurately, but the regions where you need to apply pesticides and sprays. That reduce the cost. If you have a crop of almost 100 acres, 200 acres, 300.
And another question is about the pixel quality. So the drone image, like, and you flew this drone at 30 meters.
Yes.
So whether this
30 feet.
30 feet high, this drone actually record the depth, or so to say, like different heights of the plants and the vegetation.
Yes, the altitude matters a lot. 30 feet, if you fly a drone over 30 feet, the image quality, the resolution, the data that captured by the sensor is totally different. If you fly the same drone over the same region, but this time at 10 feet. We fly the drone at 3 meters, actually 3 meters. And the result quality, the RGB image that when we open the RGB image, one of the RGB image, we can easily identify the small stones as well. Over 3 meters, we fly the drone and we can easily identify the stones, small stones over the surface. So altitude matters.
Definitely low altitude images on a high resolution. Okay.
Exactly.
But my question is, what type of accuracy metrics analysis?
Okay. What type of evaluation matrices that we used in order to evaluate this type of analysis? Since there is no learning involved, no algorithm involved, we have an equation, apply the equation, have the results. So in order to evaluate this, you can just visit the site and the results will be actually what when you personally visit the site and have the crop samples there, just let it take the samples, perform the analysis in the laboratories, and there are fascinating research over this as well. Some of the research studies are also available over MDPI and some other journals, which actually compare or evaluate the NDVI indices, the story, the analysis based on NDVI indices, and then visit the field, take the samples, and evaluate the indices. So that result shows that NDVI is actually telling the real story, and it's very, very, very accurate about the stress of the crop.
My question is, gain is related to accuracy metrics. Amount of false positive and false negative. False negative. Identifying wrong patches. My
Okay.
question is, what are the number that you employed and false negative and false positive when we evaluate fertilization, fertilization. What are the numbers?
Again, this is the evaluation matrices that we usually use when we have some algorithms that is somehow a black box. We don't know what the algorithm is learning about, and to evaluate, we have a ground truth. Here we have the bands captured by the drone image, We just apply an equation, take the red edge, red band, NIR band, subtract it, and divided it with the sum of these two particular bands. There are values. The values getting out from this particular equation. 1 pixel, you have 1 pixel, top left pixel of the NIR band, take the value. Top left pixel of the red band, take the value, apply the equation, you will have the NDVI value. Now perform this particular equation over the complete image. You have a complete image, corresponding image, but having the NDVI value. Just this particular image is actually having values ranging from -1 to 1. Scale it between 0 to 255 or 0 to 1. Plot it. This will look like a heat map. Heat map shows the red regions, high values, green regions, low values, blue regions, very low values. So the true and false is actually when some algorithm is predicting a value and we have the ground truth and we are evaluating that. How many true values are there and how many false values are there. Right now, we discussed the paradigm of remote sensing in which there is no learning involved. Of course, these particular bands are fed to the CNNs, and then we have some classification, detection, segmentation results. When we talk about that, of course, there are evaluation metrics, dice scores in classification, we have accuracy, cross entropy, categorical cross entropy, and other evaluation matrices. But for that, you have an algorithm that is predicting some value and you are comparing it with your ground truth. Any other questions?
One thing I may add on this, what they have calculated is the NDVI, and the physical manifestation of NDVI is some researchers related to leaf area index. So what they do is they actually, how they generate leaf area indexes, they actually go to the field. If, for example, they collect the leaves and then they spread it over a particular area, and then calculate that what result is coming out. And with this establishes their ground truth. And with that, then they go back to the NDVI. They relate this NDVI with that leaf area index. So this is one way of you can say judging or characterizing the metric. But this is not the complete story. There are other you can say there are other areas where you can look as well regarding this.
Any questions from the online students, participants? Yes, the question is how you can use the NDVI index to label the images. So can we use NDVI in order to, if we have an image, the NDVI, the average value of NDVI of the complete image is high from a particular threshold. We say the crop in that particular region of the image, in particular image, and that image is actually an image of a particular region of the crop. We just assign it a label as healthy, and then some other images, some other patches, and if the value is low, less than the threshold, we assign it a label that it's the region there is the stress leaf. Yes, we can do this. Okay. Any other question from the online participants?
Another question.
Yes.
So with this whole like mapping things, if you are flowing the road over a uniform kind of vegetation, maybe then the analysis is more accurate. But if there is this heterogeneous biomass, is so then maybe not of accuracy, then you are right, and different crops at different growth stage of their
Yes, yes. We are actually in our machine vision and intelligence systems lab, we are working over a problem that looks similar to that. We have rice crops, and the crops are actually planted in a same region, but at different times. Different times that means different growth patterns. The crop is existing on the same region, one single region, but with at different growth steps. So in order to identify, if you just fly the drone, take the NDVI values, what we did, we fly the drone over the chunks, take the NDVI values, and the NDVI values shows that there is a difference in the growth pattern. So NDVI is actually capturing the growth pattern, that this is not the same crop. Not same crop means it doesn't say that this is not rice. It just say that this is the crop. I don't know which crop, but not at the same time step, at the same growth level as the region A, if that is the region B. So you can identify the levels that we call phenological stage of a particular crop. The term nomenclature is for phenological stage, estimating the phenology of a particular crop. That is the phenology. So you can map the phenology with the NDVI, but you cannot classify the crop. If there is a crop that, like if there is corn, then rice, then some other vegetables, and you fly the drone, take the images, that will not calculate or compute the NDVI, that will not relate to the crop type mapping.
But for that, you need maybe a time series, like
Exactly. Yes.
Drone flying every 2 days.
Exactly. Yes. We did the same. We visited the site after 2 weeks, take the images, make a data set, and now perform the NDVI analysis over that. 2 of the papers are accepted in a conference, and sir is also working over the same thing. Now he is the lead now. We will cover the same thing. Agri informatics. Any other questions?
What about crop classification? If we want to classify crop, like this is rice crop, this is fodder crop, then which tools and things is better?
Most of the research community is now focused to do this with NCNNs, involving deep learning into remote sensing. That's also a very fascinating area in which you have bands. Bands are channels, just fed the complete bands that you are having of the particular region from Landsat 8, or you fly the drone, just stack all the channels, red, green, red edge, and NIR and RGB, just stack it and then pass it to the CNN and let the CNN learn what type of crop there is, whether there is a crop or not. This is also a very good area to just, like, if I have a region, I just take the data set, label the data set, train an algorithm. I can easily apply this to the complete region of a country, and I can easily assess how many region of a particular country is actually crop region. So this is the new applications of the remote sensing. Crop, whether there is crop or not, which type of crop there is, like how much wheat is cultivated in 2019, in 2022, if we have a pattern of over the years, like in 2019, this much area is there for wheat in 2018, this much area, and we can not only actually capture the behavioral pattern, but also estimate how much wheat will be there in 2023 using that time series analysis. For that, you can use an Excel. Used to identify rice crop or any other indices are required in association with NDVI. No, specifically when we analyze the rice regions, we just computed the NDVI indices, and it's enough to just tell you that at what stage, at what phenological stage the rice crop is, what regions, which regions are actually under stress and which regions are healthy. But if you talk about NDVI index to classify the region that there is, this region is crop, rice crop, and this region is not rice crop, that is not the application of the data. It will just show you the regions that are healthy, unhealthy, and under stressed, but note that this region is the region where the rice crop is planted. Any other questions?
That light images they are the result calculated.
No. The reason is satellite altitude and drone. You are flying the drone at 30 feet, but in 30 feet, 8 acres. If let's suppose we have a 5-acre region of the crop, you fly the drone, take the images, capture the images, plot the NDVI indices. This is what we call how many meters are there in the image, in one image captured by the sensor. That will be more or less 3 meters, 2 meters, I would say 1 meter. 1 meter square region of the crop is captured by one single image of the sensor. But when it comes to satellite, Landsat A, 10 meters is actually 1 pixel. 10-meter region of the surface of the land, of the surface of the earth is 1 pixel. Totally different.
And there is cloud cover.
Exactly, yes. That are the challenges when you taking the images from the satellites. Okay, so is there any particular indices to differentiate the different crops? Yes, we have bands that can differentiate between types of crops. So there is one thing that you have to understand, that when I am talking about type of crop with the indices or the bands, it will just, when you plot that the visualization of the region where there are several crops are planted, it will represent it by the colors. This is a different crop, this is a different crop, this is a different crop, but it will not show that this particular crop is rice, this particular crop is wheat, sugarcane, oil seeds, but differentiate. It can differentiate that this is not the same crop as region A, this is not the same crop as region B. For that, we have some other algorithms which you can use, like clustering algorithm. Just take the just compute the values from the bands, cluster it. That cluster will represent train an algorithm, cluster over clustering algorithm, pass the values, pass the image to the clustering algorithm, and it will clusters. It will assign the label to that particular values, and that will segment out the regions where there is water bodies, where there is rice and other particular. Okay. So when we are using plant counting from TIFF images, one taken from drone and other from satellite, which will give us better result in terms of accuracy, and which one would you recommend? Of course, I discussed this, that if you are talking about drone imagery, so in drone images, if you fly the drone at 30 feet, the region, the one image, it could be 1000 by 1000 pixels, 1000 cross 1000 pixels. That one image is of 1 meter, 3 meters, 2 meters square area of the crop. But when you talk about satellite imagery, 10 meters square region of the surface of the earth is just 1 pixel. So that's the difference between using the satellite imagery and the drone imagery. Now, what are the applications when we go for the satellite images, when we go for the drone images? Yes. If you want to map the regions where there is crop, where there is water bodies, where there is land, where there is mountains, where there is urban region, where there is industrial regions, you can go for satellite images. The goal is very abstract. The task is very abstract. But when you want to monitor the crop health, stress, pest attack, definitely you have to get down. You have to use drone images. I think resolution is the matter of concern. Yes, modern satellites like James Webb on working on NIR or SB. Is this the question or the comment?
Basically, वो ये कह रहे हैं up to 0.3 तक के भी satellite images आ रही हैं. 0.3 meter तक के.
Basically, outside the university, not for that.
At least we can't just take the images of the earth, having the James at L2 Lagrangian. Okay, so can we use it for plant image approach? Modern satellites, can we use it for our plant image approach? I have no idea. Can we use or can't we use? Modern satellites with very fascinating resolution are now the topic of discussion in the research community as well. And they don't want NDVI indices now over that modern satellite images. What they want to fuse the data because there are several bands there. They want to fuse the data. So one direction is what fusion algorithms would be there, how to fuse the data. There are several studies, several research papers, even in CVPR 2022, we have a lot of papers with diffusion models, diffusion algorithms that allows you to diffuse different modalities, different modalities of data into one particular tensor and then perform the analysis over that tensor. First thing, once you fuse the data, what type of analysis, what type of tasks can be performed? Of course, if you fuse the data, happily go to the CNN. Simply fed that particular tensor to the CNN, let the CNN learn. Now, what the task should be. Number one, some of the research studies are there to enhance the resolution of the existing satellites with very low resolution, but enhance the resolution of the images, panchromatic images, high resolution images. You have the satellite image with a very low resolution, put it to a CNN and increase the resolution. This is a particular direction. Diffusion, how to diffuse the data. This is a particular direction. Okay, we diffuse the data, fed it to the CNN. What type of tasks we can perform? Can we crop? Can we map the crop? Can we classify that this is crop, this is rice crop, this is sunflower, this is wheat, this is sugarcane, this is oilseed. So this is the hot topics these days. Okay. NIR band. Yes, it works in NIR specifically, although we are using it for distant stars, but we can also take NIR images of Earth. So comparing it with NDVIs, so we may not go through all prices of NDVIs, which one is better. Again, if we talk about James Webb Telescope, it is actually at L2 Lagrangian, that is very far from Earth. Although the images captured by James Webb Telescope of the surface of the Earth would be very, very, very high in resolution as compared to the satellites. But it depends if NASA is willing to public the data and public the James Webb Telescope, of course. If he is willing, if the organization is willing, definitely we are going to do this. Take the NIR bands of the Earth and perform the NDVIs over that particular band. Yes, and if that's the case, James Webb is the best option to go for. Any other question? Okay, I sorry I got this. Multi-spectral imaging. Imagery can be used to precisely classify leaf diseases. Just a brief answer would be okay. Okay, so we tried to do this. What we do is actually we have a cotton crop and we want to detect the pest, the external pest over the leaf using the NDVI images, NDVI or some other bands or indices, using the indices. So what we analyzed is flying a drone at very low altitude, 1 meter. 1 meter over the cotton crop, 1 meter above the cotton crop, fly the image, fly the drone, take the multispectral data and the RGB data, and even then 1 meter high from the cotton crop, 1 meter high, RGB images, when we realize we cannot even detect. That's a very, very, very small region, small pixels, almost 5 to 6 pixels. If we just visualize it by human eye, 5 to 6 pixels, that are the pixels of a pest. So in order to detect the pest or the leaf diseases, like classify the leaf diseases with the NIR, if you want to classify, it's okay. You can classify leaf diseases. There is a data set over the cattle in which they have cotton images, cotton leaf images, and they classified. They have several diseases: Cercospora, Fusarium wilt, and some other gray mildew. So they have a data set of RGB data. RGB data, they divided into different crop diseases, and you can use any CNN algorithm to classify leaf diseases. Classify. If you want to classify, yes, it can be done with CNNs. Even BGG16 can classify easily, but you have the data set, of course. If you have the data set, you can classify. Now the question is, can we use NDVI indices and other bands? Yes, you can use it. Even RGB images, using the RGB images, you can classify the leaf diseases. But if you want to do some other research, but what effect, what accuracy, what improvement in the accuracy, if we just stack the RGB with the other bands captured by the multispectral sensor, you can do this. It's a new direction if you want to go. Because we also want early detection, which is not possible with just RGB. Yes, early detection, even pest detection, not early detection, even the detection is very difficult with RGB. Any other questions? Okay, so thank you. Dr. Mozam Faraz is our director of the lab, Machine Vision and Intelligence System Lab. Here are the contact details, the email, the website, URL of our Machine Vision and Intelligence Systems Lab. We are working in various topics, regions, fields in computer vision, particularly and specifically computer vision. Recently, we are just make a team and apply the computer vision, actually researching the application of computer vision in remote sensing. Some of the insights that we have just that we have yet with the with the data sets that we developed in Pakistan, flying the drones in the regions of Pakistan, getting the data from the satellite of the same regions, analysis, different types of analysis we performed, and this is a particular presentation for that analysis and the research areas that we have. So if you want to like collaborate, or if you want to if you have an idea and you want to research, you may. Okay, so thank you. Let's call it off today. Presentation not here. Yes, we will share the presentation slides as well. You can, it will be accessible to all of you. इसका mechanism बना लीजिए. The video will be available at the YouTube channel of the MachVIS. The video will be available, but we can even release the slides as well. Okay.